My sister-in-law's best friend has a huge crush on my husband and is trying to sleep with him, and my sister-in-law is encouraging it. My sister-in-law is my husband's half-sister, as she was the product of their mother's infidelity. His father divorced their mother when he was 12 after he found out through a paternity test she wasn't his. My father-in-law refused to have anything to do with my sister-in-law but continued to have a relationship with my husband. Because of this, my sister-in-law is very clingy to my husband. My husband is also very protective of his sister and generally doesn't tolerate anything negative being said about her, even though she can be very unhinged and erratic at times, even going as far as crying at our engagement party because she didn't get any gifts. Anyway, my husband and I bought a house last year which has its own indoor swimming pool. My sister-in-law was super excited when she saw it and asked if she could use it sometimes with her friend. We said it was fine as long as she gave us a notice before she turned up. Her and her friend Chloe have used it many times before, but almost never when my husband is home. With a virus resurfacing, my husband has started to work from home sometimes. My sister-in-law asked me if she and Chloe could come over and use the pool. I told her I was uncomfortable with them coming over as I'm pregnant, but my sister-in-law then asked if she and Chloe were isolated for 2 weeks, would they be able to come over, and my husband said it was fine. 2 weeks later, they turned up to my house. My husband was in his office, so they went straight to the pool after making small talk. My husband ended up coming out after an hour and we're hanging out in the kitchen. My sister-in-law walks in to get a drink and she starts talking to my husband. Before she goes back to the pool, she says, "Chloe's gonna be so happy to see you." It was weird because my husband and Chloe aren't close. Chloe comes into the kitchen 2 minutes later dripping wet with her towel, not covering much, and spends the rest of her time talking to my husband until he excuses himself to get back to work. She's super giggly and smiley when she talks to him. He would say something sarcastic and she would laugh like it was the funniest joke she's ever heard. It honestly felt like she was flirting with him. Before she went back to the pool, she gave me this weird smirk look. Before they leave, they ask my husband if he's working from home every day of the week. He confirmed he is. The next 2 weeks, they come over to the house to swim every single day, except Chloe never gets in the water. Instead, she hangs around the house in her bikini every single day. Whenever my husband comes out to hang around me, she quickly interrupts him and keeps him talking until he has to go back to work. I made lunch for us all, and when I excused myself to call my husband down, my sister-in-law quickly stopped me and said Chloe could call him for me. They shared a look, and Chloe looked really happy when she went to get him. Chloe has also started to get touchier with my husband. She has put her hands on his chest and arms, stands or sits really close to him. To my husband's credit, he does usually create space between them whenever she does something like this. The reason I believe my sister-in-law is in this because she has made a few pregnancy-related jabs at me recently. She told me a story about how one of her friend's boyfriends was cheating on her and then said something along the lines of, "Did you know a lot of men start cheating when their wives are pregnant?" She has also made comments about how I look chubby now and it looks weird next to my husband because he's well built. As she spots my husband out of the office, she quickly goes to inform Chloe. Update: I was thinking of how I was going to bring up the issue. Turns out, I didn't have to. We were watching a movie and my phone lit up with another text from my sister-in-law telling me she was now going to be here at 1 p.m. the next day to swim with Chloe. My husband saw it and told me to tell her not to come. This is really weird behavior for my husband because he tends to do anything to accommodate my sister-in-law and very rarely refuses her anything. I asked him if something had happened and he shrugged it off and we kept watching the movie. A few minutes later, he paused the movie and said he wanted to ask me a question. He asked if I'd noticed Chloe never swim when she came to our house. I wish I could say I was calm and collected. I ended up laughing hysterically. I was honestly just so relieved he'd brought it up instead of me having to be the one to do it. I think my husband thought I was losing my mind. When I finally stopped laughing, he repeated the question and said he wanted a serious answer. I said, "Of course I've noticed," and he awkwardly replied, "So you must have noticed the other thing too." To summarize the conversation that followed, my husband hadn't noticed Chloe was flirting with him the first few days because he was so busy with work, he wasn't really paying attention to anything else. He said when she started getting handsy is when he suddenly had the light bulb moment that she was into him. He says he didn't want to unnecessarily stress me out, so he never mentioned anything, but he was worried I'd noticed too, and thought he was interested because he hadn't immediately shut it down. He did privately speak to Chloe and told her he was happily married and wasn't interested in starting anything with anyone else. Apparently, she never took him seriously because she kept doing it. In the end, he called his sister on Sunday to tell her either she got her to stop or Chloe couldn't come over anymore. His sister ended up having a tantrum and said a few nasty things about me. She insisted I was somehow behind his request and made some comments about how I was controlling and insecure because I looked like a beach whale and Chloe was younger and hotter. She then claimed I had baby-trapped him, and when my husband pointed out we were already married, so I didn't need to trap him, and that he was the one who wanted to start a family. She kept insisting I had manipulated him into feeling that way. The thing that made my husband finally snap was when she said the baby was already ruining everything and it was just going to get worse when it was born, and he should have dragged me to the termination clinic while he had the chance. He told her that neither her nor Chloe were welcome in our home anymore until they apologized for how they'd been behaving and for the things my sister-in-law said. Apparently, she started crying and said she was sorry, that she didn't mean it, and she was just scared to lose him and that she wasn't thinking clearly. He hung up on her. He showed me his phone, and she's been calling him and texting him since, begging him to reply.